All right, everybody, what's up? Thank you guys for tuning into podcast number two. I'm here with my business partner and basically my best friend in the world and my brother, Joe. Thank you for being on here. We're going to start ripping this podcast together. I'm excited to have you locked arms together, and I think we got some good content for people. Let's jump on in. Where would you like to start, my friend?
So, a question that we get every single day, right, is how do you properly underwrite a deal? And, I feel personally that you can't be a broker or investor if you truly don't know how to underwrite a deal at its core. And that's just an education piece without putting any money up front. And I would say, how long does it usually take for our guys to really, get a good grasp on underwriting?
A while. I mean, we're talking probably six to 12 months minimum
Six to
until we
12
start getting,
months. And
yeah,
that's doing
minimum.
it every single day.
Yeah, across like a
Every
bunch of
single
leads
day.
they generate, you know?
I
And
mean,
plus them
because
hearing it from the other guys.
every deal that they get for underwriting it live that day. And that's for, I would say each guy gets at least 3 to 5 leads. So if every single, we're going over 30 to 40 deals a day.
And plus I think it's nice that I love, as we're going through the deal, I love trying to hear where they're coming from and letting them try to take a quick whack at it and see what they come up with before we just give them the answers. But
And it's funny to see as time goes on that they get closer and closer to, being pretty accurate with our valuations.
well, yeah, and also like, they start realizing that like the deals that they thought at the beginning of their career that were super good were not actually as good, and they're a lot more refined in their understanding of like, okay, this is going to be something worth spending time on versus this is going to be something that's not worth spending time on.
Yeah, but I'll be the first one to say that I was the culprit, and we both were culprits in, thinking that there was beautiful deals when they absolutely weren't.
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake where agents today, they spend way too much time on stuff that's just never going to transact. So I think our team does a great job with really ensuring that what we're spending time on is going to make us money versus, a lot of stuff that just can be a complete waste of time.
Yeah, and there's listen, in residential real estate, anytime you get an opportunity, you're gonna do everything you can to try to lock that in. But in commercial, there's so many deals, there's so many transactions, right? There's in retail, multifamily, industrial alone in New Jersey, in the last 12 months, there was at least 4 to 5 thousand transactions. So if you get 1% of that, that's 40 to 50 deals, right? And you can have an incredible living in commercial real estate on 40 to 50 deals. So it's just like if that opportunity is not good, you need to be able to move on.
I mean, there's enough out there where I mean, like, well, you should be generating enough where you're not super stressed over moving on from one lead. The problem is that most people don't. Most people don't generate enough leads to feel comfortable just going, oh, what do you mean I can't sell this deal? You know what I mean? They're just like, I can sell this deal. Of course I can. I mean, I know that, you're probably more optimistic than me on most deals. I'm probably the super conservative one. Maybe too conservative probably at times. But, like it's like the thing with us though is that we just have so many opportunities that we're able to just say like, hey, we segment them out. This is an absolute not. This is, let's put this in front of a couple people and see what happens. These are an absolute yes, and we can just focus more time on what's going to make us money today versus probably never make us money or anybody money. Just be a complete waste of
I
time.
would say that 100% is like a huge factor in succeeding. 100%, not even a doubt in my mind. Because think about how much time, I know how much time, I did it. How much time I spent on deals that I didn't even know. If I knew how unsellable some of the deals were, I would not have worked on it. But you just don't know. You don't realize it. You don't realize it in you get a multi-million-dollar deal where you think you see the commission check. You signed a 4%, 5%, 6% listing.
And you
You
think you got money in the
potentially can
bank.
make
You're like,
you potentially can make 150,000 when you used to making 10,000. You shit your pants and you're like this is a winning lottery ticket.
yeah.
When in reality it's 500,000 overpriced and like,
And you're just going to spend
could you
hours, if not weeks, if not months, just getting, every, tell me more about, let's go down this for a second. It's just like, okay, you have this overpriced listing, right? Which we've all taken. And you pitch it out to a couple of investors or many, 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 many investors. What do you consistently hear?
It's overpriced. It's overpriced. But what happens is that when you get experience and you have a reputation, when you have a lot of clients that you work with, and if you were to go and put this shitter deal in front of them, they're gonna completely, you have a good relationship. Hopefully it doesn't
Yeah, but this is
affect
this
it.
is the more important of what I was trying to get at. I was like, how does it make you look?
Not good. Not like I know what I'm talking about, because if I'm putting this in front of them, then unless I have a strong reason as to why, then it just kind of discounts my credibility.
100%. And it's like interesting where like, especially the newer agents where like they're not they're not as practiced when it comes to underwriting. And then they speak to a seller who's open to the idea of selling. Okay. They don't know the actual understanding of value. They just go, oh, seller wants to sell for 5 million, sign a listing. Great. They don't realize it's
You're
worth
happy.
three and a half.
You are the happiest person in the world. Just got a signed listing for 5 million.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm the king. This is amazing. And then the problem is though, is that then you speak to a buyer and goes like, hey, like, oh, we're looking for, 7% cap rate shopping centers. And you're like, oh, this is a 7 cap, or I think it is, right? And you send it in front of them and it's like a 5 cap, after you do some do some digging into like the true financials and you start looking really silly.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that I would underwrite a deal originally without adding insurance, without adding, maintenance, vacancy
Man,
management. You're talking about 15% in vacancy management and maintenance alone.
I know. And
That's a
then
lot.
you love when you speak to people and they send you an expenses and they're like, yeah, the landlord only pays taxes and insurance. I'm like, oh, so you're saying there's never going to be a vacancy for the rest of the, of eternity with this property?
The water's all broken up. There's no garbage. There
No
wasn't one
landscaping, no snow removal.
repair.
You're saying there's absolutely no fire alarm systems, right? There's no security, nothing. I was like, okay, that makes sense. There's no management. Oh, it's self-managed. Oh, that means that everyone for the rest of time is going to self-manage it. So should just not budget for that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
And and I think one thing we do all the time, which helps so much, is just leveraging the bank and saying, "Hey, how much? Where would you give a loan on this?" Right? Because you can't go and speaking and expecting buyers, like you need to know what their capital that they're looking to invest is, what number that is, and then match that up with the expected down monies for the investment.
100%.
And
Especially when interest rates are as high as they are today, which obviously, treasuries now are just under 4.0, but like the 10 year is under 4.0, which is nice to see. But it's like, even still, with interest rates as high as they are, it's like people are like, oh, I've got $500,000 and I want to buy a $5 million. Oh, yeah, bring me something like up to 4 or 5 million. It's like, okay, you can afford 1.5 million, maybe, Oh, so you're just not going to budget anything for closing costs. You're not going to budget anything for any renovations whatsoever. What are you talking about?
yeah, and it's a funny question. It really is that when you ask somebody, and it's what happens without fail every day in my life. You ask somebody, "Hey, how much capital do you have on hand that you're looking to deploy?" I say it just like that, and it's always like the originally always starts with, "Oh, like
Anything.
4 to 5 million, blah blah blah," but nobody ever wants to admit how much cash they have on hand. It's like by inflating the number by using a loan, like does that like what difference does it
This
make?
doesn't help anybody. It's like it makes it actually more difficult to do my job because the problem is that what happens is that when they don't give you the exact number, right? They just go, yeah, 4 to 5 million. And then the problem is you bring them deals 4 to 5 million and they keep saying no, and you don't realize that it's only because they only have 500 grand, right? Right? Or they only have $1 million, and they keep thinking that they're going to be able to get to that point.
And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. I completely understand the perspective, but like to really like be efficient as possible and get to the bottom line as quick as possible without wasting any time, without sending a deal on a Monday, getting a response back on a Wednesday, if they even open their email and didn't get tied up with X, Y, and Z. And then they review it on a Thursday and then they say they're not interested in a Thursday. And then you want to show them another deal on a Friday and then it doesn't happen until Monday. And it's just like, okay, cool. It's long enough already. How do we chop this down and be, you know, as efficient as possible and ask the right questions
Well, I mean,
up
because
front?
that's a lot of what we focus on, which is just condensing time frames. Like how do we go from like, us getting a good quality deal, we underwrite it, we know it's something that we can make money on, and then how do we get it under contract within, the shortest time frame possible, and just rinse, wash, repeat. Because if it's on our hot list, it gets sold in a week or two.
It's always a good deal always gets sold. And it's when you have a good deal when, you have a conversation with somebody and they follow up with you, right? When you have to be chasing somebody down, chances are that either they're not in buy mode right now, which you have to set expectations for yourself if someone's not in buy mode right now.
Mhm.
B, don't doesn't have the money on hand or, doesn't really, interest them. Because it's like with the girl, if a girl's super into you, if she's texting you back and calling you looking to hang out, same type of thing. If a guy really wants a deal, he will be your best friend until he gets that deal. But if they're not so
And that'll happen
interested,
repeatedly, by the way. All right. It'll be on several occasions. Like, you'll call up a buyer and then they don't leave you alone and they try to make you an offer right away. Then you have a second guy and the same exact thing happen. The third guy, same exact thing happens, right? Like all of a sudden you have two or three or four offers in the first, three or four or five phone calls. And it's like, that's when you know right away. It's like, okay, well, we're on to something here.
yeah, and you start to pick up tendencies and as you do it over and over and over again, you pick up tendencies of what people are looking for and what, these some of the clients we have are, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of portfolios and they're absolute beasts in the game. So you have conversation, hey, I'm not interested in this. And I say, well, for what, I completely get that. Not a property's not for everybody. Explain to me how you got to that, and then they'll go and give it from their perspective, and that's millions of dollars worth of game right there because you're hearing it from someone that's actually doing it, right? there's
100%.
there's so many people that can preach things and not be actually doing. We're actually doing it. They actually did it. So that's the best knowledge and schooling you could have is by speaking to people that are in the same position that you want to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, like, what do you feel like has, obviously we get a lot of people who hit us up about deals. A lot of brokers are like, hey, I got a lot of buyers, what kind of deals you got? So what would you tell them for finding off market deals? What would you tell them to do?
To find an off-market deal, you're really just going to need to just go and prospect and speak to as many people, have as many conversations as possible, right? We always used to use the metric of how many calls, right? But then we ended up switching to conversations as the main indicator because the more conversations you have, the more opportunities you have to be able to, sell.
Yeah, it's like
And it's
dials
just,
dials don't even mean anything anymore.
yeah,
It's like an ego thing.
yeah.
It's like
It's just,
saying I have a credit card limit with $100,000 on it, but that doesn't mean anything.
yeah. Yeah, you need to be able to, just understand that conversations you have, again, you can't have a conversation without a call. So it's just the second step in it that really actually drills home what the driving force of business is, right? It's just conversations, right? The more conversations you have talking about real estate, whether it's like you have to look at every conversation as money, right? So, every lead or person you speak to or client you speak to, that is money. It might not be money that you're getting paid now on, but you're eventually going to, because in the commercial sales cycle, there's just so many different avenues to do business with somebody. And
Yeah.
if you do business with them for one thing, there's a very good chance you're going to do a lot of business in the future.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people rely too much on other brokers to find deals.
It's
You know,
crazy.
it's crazy. Like, and I feel like one thing I really pride ourselves on is our ability to find good product, right? And like our ability to find product in general, right? All off market. I think literally every deal this year so far has been off market. And I think, it's been, one of our strong suits. So it's like a lot of people reach out to us to find, are like, hey, I have a buyer. But it's like one of the biggest pet peeves ever because it's like, I don't need more buyers for my stuff. I'll send you stuff that I can't sell, right? And you're going to have a tough time making a sale, right? But more like, more importantly, it's like, hey, you bring us a deal, we'll help you sell it. That's where I feel like a lot of newer agents, where it's like, hey, if you have a good, if you find a good opportunity, find people like Joe and myself to be like, hey, like, let's work this deal together. Let's get this deal sold if you can't sell it yourself, right? Like that's how you should start. You start making a couple bucks that way. You start learning the game a little bit, learning how to find the buyers for those sellers instead of saying like, hey, I have a bunch of buyers, which anybody can get. We have thousands of buyers in our system,
And
but
it's simple to find the buyers. You just simply search who has purchased in the area, and then those are your buyers. They know the area, they own in the area. It's not a hard sell.
yeah, great,
But
100%.
the value that's in any transaction is who has the one looking to sell the property
Yeah, the
is the
person who
buyer.
controls the seller is the person in charge.
When you're able to understand that again, they control the whole thing. You got to be able to, if you want to control your income, you got to be able to rely on sellers. Any deal that's on the market for the most part has been seen, and most of our buyers and seller, most of our buyers don't want that. They don't want anything that's on the market. So you're at a disadvantage if you're just looking to list something, just to list it. Then you need to be able to control, like, if I was a seller, I wouldn't want my agent or representative to be able to not have a buyer lined up, that they need outside support to sell a property. Like that
I
doesn't
always
seem
find that
right to me.
interesting. Let's go a hot take for a second. Let's go real hot take for a moment, okay? I'm curious to, I just want to I want to, debate this out for a moment, okay? I agree with you 100%. It's like for me when I go to, if we're going to go take a listing as an example, for us it's like, hey, why don't you just give me less, give me a month off market to get this sold. Most of the time it's done in a week, okay? But like for the fact of people having to put it on the market to sell a property is freaking laughable, right? Because that just means you don't have any buyers, right?
How
So
are you how are you supposed to be considered competent and an expert in your field if you don't have the people that are purchasing that asset in that area? Doesn't make any
100%
sense.
doesn't make any sense
Doesn't
at
make
all.
any sense.
Doesn't make any sense at
And
all. Yeah, people fight the idea of like, no, 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 to be in the best interest of the seller, it must be listed on the market. I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Because as a seller myself, as an investor myself, if you brought me a deal, like if without like you come to me and say, hey, I got a few buyers that I work with regularly. They're looking to buy property just like yours, 123 Main Street. I'm just curious, what would you consider selling it? I say yes. I tell them a price, and they go find me an offer off mark. I don't care if it's listed or not. It doesn't mean anything to me.
I would rather it not be listed.
I prefer it to.
Getting, hey, I need a best and final and all this bullshit. It's such a nonsense game. It's such
Yeah.
a nonsense game.
And you said it before, by the way. It's like most buyers, I truly believe, I agree with you, where it's like they prefer it off market, right? If it's on the market, it's like, what do you mean? Everyone's seen this and it hasn't sold, so why would I want to buy it? Most of the time, people even go like, that's listed for 142 days. Let's lowball the crap out of them.
Exactly. So it completely eliminates all of that. And it makes no sense to me as to why. And again, and guess what we do for our listings? Hit your one better. Hot take right now. No commitment listings. No commitment listings. Never been done before. Never been seen. No one's ever done it. You talk to any broker about it, their head will explode. Why? Why would I be in a committed contract with somebody if they don't want to be in a committed contract with me? If that's even a question, even a thought. So it's what I lead with, so it's not even a consideration. And what does that mean? That means you're betting on yourself that you know that you're going to be able to execute.
That's right, because I can either perform or I can't, And if I can't,
And
you don't deserve. I don't need to. I don't deserve the listing, and it doesn't matter anymore.
but people are so not confident in their ability because it takes a lot of time. It takes a long time to be able to learn and be able to have the knowledge to be confident and stand on your decision and be able to know that you're able to perform
Yeah,
rather than
they're just
saying,
not able to perform. So like I got to lock this guy in for a couple months minimum, so I at least have an opportunity to maybe get some phone calls from the CREsync listing or the LoopNet listing or the CoStar listing, where hopefully just maybe I pray to Lord, like exactly hope and pray, right? That someone calls me.
please someone click it. I have no idea if they're qualified. That's my favorite part. I have no idea if they're qualified. I have no idea their track record. I have no idea anything about them. How can you possibly say that's the best way of someone being in someone's best interest if you don't have an existing relationship with them versus the people that we've been doing business with for years who are the best in the business and
Let's
the
let's
best.
let's do another. Let's do a hot. Let's like a role reversal for a moment though. Let's go hot take for different situation. Listings. I'm a brand new agent, Joe. Okay, brand new agent. I don't have the buyers. I don't know who the buyers are. I just got licensed a month ago, and I'm in X territory anywhere in the country, and I'm working with a seller, and I want to be like like you, Joe. What do I do? You're saying like I don't have the buyers. What do I do?
Okay, so you're gonna go on to Reonomy, you're gonna go on to CREsync, you're gonna go on to CoStar if you have access to it. You're gonna go on to PropStream, whatever you can possibly get access to find the data of who purchased in the last year, 2 years, 3 years. It's go as big as you want to go. But you try 2 years. If that doesn't work, you go to 3 years. However you want to slice it, but you get who buys in that area. And you then automatically have the biggest buyers in that area, people that believe in that area, that want to have the appreciation if they own multiple properties in that area. You don't have to sell them on that. And actually, they're probably going to be the ones that overpay because they are able to save money on management and cost because they have multiple properties in the area.
Yep.
So that's going to be your best buyer, not somebody out of state, not somebody that is, from New York coming to New Jersey. Like, could they buy the property? Will they buy the property? Yeah, they could, they will, they would. But the idea is to be as efficient as possible when you're having conversation because you can look in the morning, it starts at 8 a.m. Before you know it, it's 8 p.m. and you're like, where did the day go? And it's like you need to have proven results or you're not going to be in the game long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really like it's interesting where you're prospecting all day long, you get some sellers, you get some buyers, all of a sudden you get a listing and you're like, "Oh my God, I got this listing and I got to tend to it and make sure that I do everything I possibly can." And you get pulled in this random direction, and all your energy and effort goes into this one specific listing to try to get it sold because you need the paycheck. But then it's like all of a sudden you get all this time, energy, and effort that's poured into this one listing, which you don't know it's overpriced or not, right? Because you don't know how to underwrite. You don't have any buyers for it. So you start pouring all this time, energy, and effort into something that may or may not sell. You got to spend all, you're not spending your time on the right things because you're not actually prospecting for buyers. Most of the time, what they're doing is just responding to people's emails of them inquiring, tell me more information about this deal. And then all of a sudden, this deal doesn't sell after a month, two, 3, or 4, and then they're left with no more business because they stop prospecting to focus on the listing. And then they're stuck in this weird cycle of like no business, and they're like, wow, this first year sucked, this second year sucks. And it's all because it's like you're not focused on, it's segmenting the day, right? It's like every single one of our guys every day, they're lead generating every morning, right after our team meeting in the morning, right? They're ripping the phones, trying to generate new seller opportunities. And then on the afternoon, after our afternoon call, they're just ripping through their buyers, pitching deals nonstop. Tell me some of like the metrics you like focusing on for the team.
Conversations is the number one metric. I think that's the most important. I would like to also, start to really lean more into, you know, time spent talking, right? Because that's essentially, another level of efficiency that you got to be on the phones. What's your average call time? How much time are you actually spent on the phone? Because if you're not on the phone, what are you doing? Right? Like
100%.
holding the team accountable, right? You have to just super simple. What is the point of having a team, right? You're having guys that believe in you and believe in the vision, and they're allowing you to lead them to be able to succeed, right? That's the whole point of everything. If you want someone to succeed and you want to be held at a high accountability standard, right? To know, hey, this we know what it takes to have success, you got to do this, right? If you're not on the phone, if you're not super efficient with your time, the day's gonna get ahead of you, and the only time that you did be able to spend working on a money generating activity, you're working on something that was overpriced. So there's no way that you can succeed if because guess what? The bills are going to catch up to you. That's a fact. The bills are going to catch up to you, and it's expensive to be able to play this game if you're, getting drowning in multiple thousands of dollars of expenses for the systems that you need to do to run a business.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like LoopNet account, that's 500 every single month regardless if I have something up there. And it's most of the time an overpriced listing. So it's like, what are we doing? It's like you're getting crushed on bills. So you have to be able to perform. And if there's going to be months where in the beginning you don't get a paycheck, but you gotta stay
Could be
consistent
a
with it.
year or years, depending on what brokerage you're at, what team you're at, what coach you have, what mentors you got, what you're doing on a regular basis, 100%.
And I think it's important that, a lot of people will essentially maybe, look at people that had success 20, 30 years ago, which is great, but it's a completely different game now. Completely different game.
I know the
With
business
AI,
business is not done the same way today.
it's not done the same way, not at all, right? Like the marketing, so many different marketing channels, right? We're sitting here over a computer discussing real estate and deals, right? It's not what it used to be, right? In-person meetings were different, but now, you got to be able to adapt to the times and be able to use AI to your advantage and be able to market as much as you possibly can because that's what's going to separate the average and the good from the great. And
And
how
you
much
can
time
you
can
can go toe to toe with a 40-year vet who's been in the game for a while, who makes two, three, 400 grand a year, 500 grand a year, whatever it is, right? Every year consistently based on his database. You can go toe to toe with players like that within a 2 to 3 year period of time. Within 2 years, 3 years of you ripping phones all day, every day, having 30, 40, 50 conversations a day, generating, a bunch of leads, talking to a bunch of buyers, running the business the right way, everything we talk about on the other videos, doing all these things. It's like you can go toe to toe with some of these guys who've been in the business forever who don't prospect every day, who don't have those levels of conversations because they're on the fucking golf course all day.
Yeah. Listen, how do you view from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night?
Yeah, I mean, like 7:30, basically 7 to 7 is work time. Like 7 to 7, I'm in front of my computer making calls, just on my phone at least. I'm in either on the computer in a meeting or I'm on my phone, and that's it.
And
7 to 7, Monday through Friday minimum.
yeah, the beautiful part about it is that by being able to schedule meetings and have those conversations on your phone, if you're diligent and you're able to build and work hard earlier, as you progress, you're able to go and travel, but have access to be able to be making multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars on a phone call, right? That's what we're building towards, all right? How many times have we got a deal, made one phone call and sold it, right? That's the power of a strong network. And it's like, being able to have access to be able to have that even as an opportunity down the line starts with grinding now. But it doesn't make sense that in one conversation, you go to college for 4 years, you pay $50,000 a year, right? You're 200,000 in the hole, and then you come out with the chance that maybe you'll get a job, making 60, 70, 80 grand, and maybe you'll be able to get a bonus in 5 years if you're good, and you're only able to take off 2 weeks a year to spend time with your family and loved ones. And it's like, or you get into commercial real estate, end up working with a good team, be able to learn the skills that's going to be able to have you generate wealth for the rest of your life. Maybe not make so much money year one, but be able to have the opportunity to make hundreds of thousands year two, three, four, and for the rest of your life, while getting opportunities to be able to purchase to build wealth. It's a no-brainer, right?
100%.
Am
No,
I
I
missing
agree.
something?
No, I mean it's you're both of us are two college dropouts, right? And it's interesting how a world like today they still push college as hard as they do, right? And you get into a job where you're starting off making 60 grand a year or 40 grand a year. It's like I don't understand how anyone ever thinks that that's going to be anywhere near enough money to even start a family. And all of a sudden, it's like people struggle to even make $100,000 a year with the elusive 100 grand a year. Where in our business, you sell one deal, you make 100 grand.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, got to the point where, make 50, like that's a cool amount, right? Make 50. And then you get to the point where 50 is like, damn, just 50? That's a loss.
That's a
That's a
small
that's an
deal.
L. It's a small one. And then you get to the point where it's like 100's cool. It's like the middle ground. And like 200 is like, all right, this is cool. And like, don't really get too excited, as crazy as it sounds, until you get above that two, 300 mark.
It's one of those things where like now, because we're doing deals like that so regularly that for us, it's more of like, how do we just do, 3 to 5 a week, every week, and just, that's, the more of the focus and building the team with with the right talent and, helping other people make a bunch of money in this industry. And, so I'm curious, what do you look for agents that you want to bring on the team?
Higher, ca- higher character, train skill all day, every day, right? Because the formula works, the success works, right? The plan works, everything's going to work. If they just continue to show up, continue to try to get better, and continue to just plug themselves in and be committed, right? If you're committed, and again, hard work beats talent, and I will teach you everything you need to know. It is not a hard skill to learn. It's not something that is you have to be a genius. Obviously, us together, we're pretty good, but we weren't the valedictorians in our class. which is when you just have grit and relentless, continue to show up and get better, which is super easy. It's just effort. It's just effort. Again, you pick everything else up along the way. So like you're gonna have success, you're gonna make money, but like the character part of it is the most important because, there's gonna
It's hard to
be
train character.
you can't. And it's
Yeah.
like also the person's why. What's their reason why? Right? Like if they have a good like they want a Lambo, or like are they trying to help their parents out? Are they trying to build a life for their family? Or, like what is their why?
Yeah, because the
Right?
materialistic stuff comes and goes. It's like you can get that, then what?
Then what? And it's like, but if you go into it with like that expectation, like money just amplifies who you are. Like that is the truth. Anybody will say it. We're the same people we were when we were broke as a joke. But like if you have that mindset of like that ego and the not of the genuine approach, like it's gonna be a tough sledding for you.
Yeah, I think it's also important, interestingly enough, that when, especially because we interview a lot of people, right? And a lot of people reach out. Where specifically, like being super specific about what we're looking for, right? It's like not only great, great character, right? High valued individuals, respectful people, people who want to come in and do the best possible job they can, work their absolute tails off. And then it's not just about the money, which we all want to make a lot of money, but it's more respectable of like, hey, what can I learn? How can I have, like what can I learn from this experience, right? And the money will come by putting in the hard work. Not only that, but licensed, specifically licensed people in a key few markets around the country, because it's like it's really hard to help, be able to help somebody where number one, you don't take 100% responsibility for your actions. You only want to work a few hours a day, right? Like, when you're lazy, you're not respectful, you don't come to play team. You come to, it's more of an I or me. Or you're coming into, fight for, crazy, crazy high splits day one, where it's like, look, the people who make a lot of money on our team, like it's not about the highest splits, but it's because we have great systems, a great process, great team members, great culture, great training, and that's why our team members succeed. And these are 20 something year old kids who, came to us with absolutely nothing, and some of them are knocking it out of the freaking park. Couldn't be more proud of them.
And that's, I mean, I'll give you, I would say you probably agree with this piece of advice, but the people that I've had conversation with that are coming and looking at crazy splits, I just say to myself, they don't see the true value of it because you don't go into it, whatever you possibly think of, because people don't understand. Like, if we take somebody on the team, we are 100% not getting a return on our investment of the amount of time, energy, and effort that it is to be given to anybody that's starting out.
For at
Like
least 2 years.
the amount of time, the amount of phone calls we probably have at least 10 phone calls a day each 15 phone calls, 20 phone calls a day for the team, per
Yeah,
each guy. And it's like we love it so much, and we're the ones that push it. But the reason is because we know what it takes to succeed, and you need that support to be able to get to where you want to be. So if you're not committed and you're not focused, the only person losing out is
is you.
us.
Yeah,
Is
100%.
is us if they're not committed and focused. But if they, it makes me sad sometimes to see like some people screw up an opportunity to work with us because it's life changing. It's life changing and literally is life changing. And I don't know another person in the business that's doing anything remotely close to what we're doing.
So let's talk about a new agent. Like, what activities do you think they should be focused on? We already talked about obviously having conversations, but it's obviously let's be more tactical. Like, what are like the most
Um,
important activities for a commercial real estate agent to be doing on a regular basis?
Most important activities definitely is prospecting, right? Once you prospect, then follow up is the second most important thing because there's no deal that ever gets done on the first conversation. So your follow-up game has to be on point. And then being able to finding a deal, let's go through the steps. You find the deal, you follow up with them until they're ready to sell. Now that they're ready to sell, hopefully in the meantime, you've been able to build up a buyer list. So now you can pitch the deals out to the buyer. And then once you have the buyer, now you have to know, that the deal makes sense and is able to get funded, right? And then you have to then be able to make sure that they're now connected with the right attorneys and title company that's going to be able to actually execute on the deal, right? Because you get an attorney that's not versed in commercial real estate and put them on a deal. They're going to be in and out of court. They're going to not know how to fix problems when they come up. And it's like there's so many stages you got to get past where each roadblock, each stage can be a roadblock, which can blow a deal up. So, and it's like when you put so much time, energy, and attention into something, you want to negate as many issues along the line. So you really got to educate yourself and you got to understand like, hey, you're brand new, just find business, find leads, get as many leads as you can because you might not be able to make money on that lead now, but 6 months down the line, a year down the line, that can be, a great opportunity or be a great buyer.
Yeah, I feel like the mistake that most agents are making, especially the beginning of their, let's even go through a few stages, right? Big mistake for brand new agents, in my opinion, is that they're not focused enough on lead generation. They don't create enough lead flow. They don't realize that, majority of leads, 70, 60, 70, 80% probably are probably just not a deal or just not even close to a motivated enough seller to spend some time on it. Right. So a large percentage of the leads you're going to generate are just not going to be lucrative enough. So if you're only generating like 5 or 10 leads a month, you might only have one, maybe, right? Or a handful, a small amount of those, right, that are even going to be remotely worth your time to even start digging into. But let's
And that's not even counting the deals that are good leads that turn into good deals. Bang, there's a problem. Bang, there's an environmental. Bang, there's this. Bang, there's that. Like
they spoke to their accountant, they don't want to sell.
they can't sell for taxes or whatever the case is, or there's not enough money. There's a lien up against the property. The title's an issue. Like we're surprised. Like it used to be
Yep.
like we got an accepted offer, we got an accepted LOI, throw a party. Then you realize that that's not foolproof. Then you go and you're like, cool, we got under contract. We're golden. Bang, deal falls out in due diligence. Now it's like
Buyer asked for
deposit
it.
goes.
Buyer asked for a 20% reduction.
Yeah, buy ask for 10, 20% reduction. You need to cut your commission, blah, 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 whatever the song and dance could be. Cool. Then the deposit goes hard. You think you're in the promised land. Bang, more commission drops and issues that come up. And then we got to the one closing table and they didn't put us on the HUD. Now,
Oh yeah, sorry. You got to drop your commission by half now.
now you got to drop your commission by half because we can't close. You have to go into bankruptcy if not. Like, what? So the total expectation of any part of a deal where you think you're in the clear, you're not. And
It doesn't mean much until the money's literally in your checking account
literally in your account, literally, because you can work on a deal for 6 months, think you're closing, and then
or a year, like we've had.
a year, and then you end up having an issue where it's
Push back,
like,
push back, push back.
so it's like if you don't have a ton of deals and opportunities to work on, like get a deal, queue it up, bang, follow up with it, but make believe like you got nothing. To the point where you have to have 10, 20, 30 opportunities that
Always, always irons in the fire, 100%.
always, always. And if you're not going and, keeping that fire on by having conversations that have sellers, like you're gonna be in a tough position. And people will go and make 50, 100,000, whatever they do, and then they'll go and blow it. Or, they don't
I literally was just
utilize
talking
it.
about this today on one of my trainings. Where just like I got so like I get like viscerally frustrated because like I have some people reach out about like watches or cars or all that kind of stuff like oh like this guy like I see this guy who's I know is doing okay like again like when I say okay they're making maybe 200 grand a year okay and then I see them the first thing that they do because I we're in touch with so many freaking real estate agents this guy I know just made it got a check for 100 and the next thing I see is that he took a six, like a month-long trip to Spain. Then they bought a Porsche and they have a brand new Rolex on. And I'm like, you just blew the 100 you made when you don't even own any freaking property. And it's like you try to act like you're a big shot, but it's like you're not even growing the business at all. Like you've been doing, like congratulations, you closed one deal for 100 grand, but it's like you blew it before you had it in your mind that you were gonna blow it before it even came.
I mean, what we always did was anytime we made money, bang, new system, bang, new system, bang, better leads, bang, new system. Whatever it took to be able to, be able to make more money so that you're not in a rat race. And it's like,
Like what the
but
whole,
you have
what's
to,
the
you're
point of us
betting,
doing this?
you're betting on yourself, right? You're betting on like you're going to continue to show up. We can close for $1 million each check tomorrow and still going to have an 8:15 meeting, still going to have a 2 o'clock meeting, still going to have a 6 o'clock meeting. You could close for $10 billion check. It does, there's no amount of money that would stop me from getting on that 8 o'clock call, which is like, because you don't do it for the money, you do it for the mission.
Let's leave a closing thought for those who are listening. You're talking to somebody right now, they're making 100, 200, 300 grand a year as a commercial real estate broker and they feel stuck. Maybe they're plateaued, they're frustrated, they want to make more money. What do you say?
I'd say give me a call, but I would say that, you gotta really reflect on every transaction, reflect on, are you doing everything you can in your power to be succeeding, right? Because you'll only go as far as your personal development, and you got to invest in yourself. You got to make sure you're going to the gym. You got to be, mental is the same as physical. You got to stay sharp, right? And you got to, understand and put yourself in environments where you're going to succeed, and that's going to make you better, right? A lot of people you see going to the office and, they're having hour and a half lunch breaks and talking about nonsense when it's like, are we working? Like, what do you value, right? Do you
It's like
value
they,
family
they
time?
started working at 10 o'clock. They work till 11:30. They go on an hour and 34, hour and 30 hour, 2 hour lunch break. They come back, work for another hour, and they're like, all right, good. I gotta leave. It's
Like,
3 o'clock already.
what do you value? Okay, you value your family. Okay, cool. So if you value your family, right, you want to be home for your kids and have dinner with them and okay, cool. So lock in from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night with no distractions. And you're going to get so much more done and be so much more efficient with your time because the hour that you didn't prospect, that you were, chatting about fantasy football or whatever nonsense it could be, you missed the opportunity to speak to that one lead that ended up going and, potentially changing your career. Right? You have to look at it at that. Like I have anxiety if I'm not doing something productively trying to make money or move a deal along throughout the day. Like I can't I can't think of like when you realize what one deal could do, you're like, damn, that's a phone call away. And that's happened. And it's like
It's a special feeling.
until you see it, you're like, shit. Like what could I be doing that's more beneficial to my future and my happiness and life and everything under the sun? And speak to people about $1 million properties. Speak to millionaires about $1 million properties. I think there's worse things that you could be doing in this world than that.
Look, great for first session for those of you who are listening. Obviously, you'll see all Joe's information down below. Me and Joe are going to start doing a lot more of these. Let us know if you have any questions for the next session that we do. We're going to start doing these more regularly, and we'd love to rip through these in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next session. Take care, guys.